I actually really enjoyed their breakdown because there were things that they were talking about that... What?
You're just moving around so much, it doesn't look pleasant to the eye on camera.
Jesus Christ, Greg.
Yeah, can we reshoot this whole conversation?
Are you being for real?
No. Hello there, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
I'm JabyKoay.
We have JabyKoay with us today because we're going to watch from Quarter Crew, one of the best YouTube channels in the world. You've seen these guys before?
I've watched a lot of their stuff, actually.
They are addicting. I made sure Jabby did not see this video because I wanted to cover with him because he's all about that Bollywood at the JabyKoay channel.
What's funny is the very first image here is not even Bollywood.
Then the hell with Quarter Crew. This is VFX artists react to Bollywood bad and great CGI. I say we just swing on into things.
We're doing Bollywood today. Oh! Oh my God, he planned that!
That was the coolest thing I've seen. They're doing a really, really classic technique, which is...
Alright.
What's up, guys? We are back with a very exciting episode of VFX Artists React. We're doing Bollywood today, and
hey, yo, where did Nico go?
Nico had a baby.
Yeah, that's right. He had a baby, a beautiful little baby girl. What are we gonna do without Nico here?
We'll be fine. We'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah, we got it.
You got it.
Oh, this really is the Bollywood edition.
That's not Bollywood. That's just silly. The stretching of the face and stuff. I mean, unless it's old Bollywood before I came along.
Hey guys, my name's Sam. Well, you know me.
Sam, how did you learn?
I'm just trying to seem like I know what I'm talking about.
Well, I have a little clip I'd love to share with you.
Oh, jeez.
Baahubali!
Again, not Bollywood.
That's probably what a lot of these comments are filled with.
Baahubali.
Baahubali.
This is the Angry Birds moment.
There's a clip from this movie that went viral on Reddit. These guys all have these sweet shields. They get on this tree and you're like, why are they on this tree?
It's the Angry Birds moment.
And then it immediately
Oh,
wow.
It gets more complicated.
I love that.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Look at that.
That's how you intro.
That was the coolest thing I've seen. The transition from spinning and to sliding is so sweet.
Whoa, they do that in this movie?
Oh my God, that's the last time they ever plant trees.
Those guys didn't make it.
I will have a screen.
300 action, so many splinters, so many boo-boos.
That's gotta be all CG. That's so cool though.
This is really well made, really well produced.
That was like 300 on acid.
They hate when you compare it to 300 too.
At the same time.
So they get flung, and the premise is that they're holding on to each other and they curl up into each other to block the arrows.
How did they
That's
train
what
for
this
that?
whole scene is about, is a bunch of crazy stuff. No one cares about physics here.
Basically, when they're midair, that's 100% CG. Once his feet hit the ground, it becomes real. That's a photo scan. And then it transitions. See right there.
That's
see
great.
See the transition?
Oh, that's really cool.
Okay,
See,
yeah, I do see it.
This shot is a really good example of CG transitions. Generally, like impact points are some of the best moments in a shot to transition from something that's fake to something that's real. It's a really common trick to look out for when watching any visual effects shot. If you see someone flying and then land on the ground, that transition point is generally the moment their feet touch, or anytime there's like a sharp movement.
That was Mario.
This shot right here, they transition to an element that doesn't have any motion blur. The whole background has motion blur, but those guys don't.
This is the opposite example, where those are 3 real plates of people on wire work, but when they pull back to show the fall, they have CG doubles that are doing the fall. So they
interesting.
don't have a clear transition point. This is a single smooth camera move. It's slow motion. Like, there's nowhere to hide that transition.
Oh, what the heck? Woo!
And there's
Whoa!
no acceleration at all, whether negative or positive. There's a lot going on in this shot.
There's a lot going on in this shot.
Like that splinter, the catapult getting splintered into a million pieces.
Oh, look at that guy cheering.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
holding up
weird.
with one hand and pointing at
It's
it.
like a CG dude.
Yeah, those are CG people down there.
He's just standing there and he just goes.
So this is again what you were talking about, Sam. There's another impact transition from the CG shields to these guys actually jumping.
If you look at the shield, like the lighting and rendering quality of them is really, really close to the live action version.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, it's extremely close.
I would bet that they're still CG. Because look, see this shield center? It freezes while they're still moving. The center middle shield freezes for like 4 frames while everything else is moving.
It's not actually real yet. It's still the CG shield.
And that's how they're able to move them so fast, because those would be heavy.
That is smart.
Like, I'm willing to bet as the main guy comes running in, he's not actually holding the shield.
He's got a tiny shield.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a CG shield.
That's the trick. You just keep people guessing. Is it real or is it not? Because sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't.
Keep the illusion going.
That's some good stuff right there.
You've seen this?
This is not Bollywood. It's-
Oh, this is the Indian Terminator, right?
Yeah, and this is Indian Terminator.
I've seen gifs of
he's a
this.
robot.
Whoa.
What?
He's got magnet hand. He's like Magneto.
I actually enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It's insane.
Oh! Oh!
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wait, that didn't stop him? Wait a minute. That didn't stop him? He got T-boned and he's still chill. Like, look at that! This guy is... Oh, I love this. I love this so much.
Whoa.
Yeah, oh my god! Through the whole...
Yeah, that's amazing.
What does he know that we don't? Oh! Oh!
That guy is a super famous in
Oh my
India.
God, he planned that! He planned that! He knew!
That's Rajnikant.
Dude, he's awesome.
I love how they just like filmed this with real traffic, by the way. This is like, they're actually in traffic. They
Are you
don't close the
kidding me?
roads off
Are
completely.
you kidding me? Is this where he... Jean-Claude?
Jean-Claude.
It's happening!
You see that Jean-Claude Van Damme commercial?
Yeah, split. Whoa, that was CG.
Oh, that was a CG person there.
There we go.
That person was computer generated.
Wait, so this guy's on the other side. Oh my god!
That's awesome.
Oh, that's incredible.
What the hell? What the hell?
Is this like The Mask? Didn't Jim Carrey do this in The Mask?
That sequence is pretty crazy. A lot of the visual effects is right there to enhance and highlight the extreme wire work and rigging work that's done constantly. Because every single time you see someone midair, you see a car floating for a second, like 99% of that stuff is being done with like cranes and rigs.
Wow,
and
he's
wires.
really in there,
That's
huh?
what I love about these scenes is the scale. Like literally, there's swinging cars around
With
on
people
cam.
in the cars
With people
while they're
in,
swinging.
with cables.
So a ton of the VFX work has gone into painting those wires and those cranes and rigs out. That's an invisible effect, which we're doing an episode on, by the way. So subscribe if you guys want to check out the invisible effects episode.
So let's break down some of the actual technical things going on in this scene.
His head turning around backwards is a motif in this film. Generally, every time they're doing it, what they're doing is they're actually doing a green screen plate of the actual actor turning around.
Right there looks like a green screen plate.
Yeah.
That's a real face we're looking at right now. You can see like right over the brow above the eyes here, the specular highlights are right there, and it looks like a real face. But then we cut away, and then we cut back to him, and now it looks like a plastic face.
It looks CG.
It looks CG because you can actually see a little bit of that feathering along the edge of like the top of his head. It's like a soft edge.
Yeah.
Damn, they got good eyes.
I mean, they're used to looking at this stuff.
These are both the same actor here.
That's not the same guy.
Yeah, it's the same actor actually.
What?
It's all about this inventor who creates a robot with his likeness. Some
You know,
like,
they look kind of different enough that I wasn't able to tell it was the same person.
Same.
and they're doing
Oh,
a
the facial
really,
hair.
really classic technique, which is using motion-controlled camera rigs. But it's allowing them to replicate the same shot twice, basically pull an actor from one footage and put it in the other, while having a moving camera.
You have the background of both different shots with the person in different spots match up exactly. Motion control was invented for Star Wars because they had to do all these different passes of like the backgrounds and all the different spaceships. And now
Really?
with computers, you can like program it in. You can just do the same move over and over again. You see in lots of movies. The one I really liked was from the movie Limitless. Oh, but look at that! He's hugging himself. Is that
How do they do that?
how does that? How
It's a
are they
double.
doing that?
It's a guy in a suit that is not the actor, and then they're simply doing a head replacement.
Okay.
That's really flawless.
That's pretty good.
For as goofy as like the physics are in a lot of these action sequences, there's a lot of legit visual effects work that's done really well in this piece. I feel like clone effects are one of those things that people are always going to keep working on improving.
It makes sense though too, because like cloning myself was like one of the first effects I ever did.
It was literally my first effect ever.
Exactly, because visual effects artists spend a lot of time alone, and when you don't have anyone around you,
true.
you need to be the actor in all roles. It's basically the first thing a visual effects artist learns.
Dude, this guy is awesome.
Oh!
Whoa, okay, hold up. What? Okay,
That's awesome. It looks legit. Oh man.
Wow. Just wow.
Does he
Dude, this
ever
is
have
like
a struggle in this
from
movie?
hell.
Yeah.
oh dang.
Dude.
This is, dude.
How imaginative is this?
Wow.
It's an obvious, reference there.
Yeah,
T2.
this stuff
Yeah.
doesn't look so realistic.
Whoa. Oh my god, he became a cobra.
It seems ridiculous. It's like, okay, this is crazy, but okay, if you had to film a scene where 50 robot dudes turn into a giant ball and beat everyone up, like how do you actually go about planning and executing that sequence?
Because the moment they go into the sphere, obviously this is all computer generated,
Super solid job on the lighting, matching the lighting to that CG ball.
and then the head's all spun out. So they obviously have a really high resolution photo scan of his head.
There's a million things going on here, which are pretty cool.
Several different plates of people getting pulled by wires, and then they combine them all and then transition to the 3D elements of them forming into the sphere.
So all the head plates there.
All legit. Oh my
So
god.
we thought those were CG. All the faces are practical.
Face is the one thing that when you make fake, people tend to notice. All the other stuff you can make fake and really realistic.
They actually
made
have a giant wire ball.
Oh, how
used to film
crazy.
These shots, which is exactly how I would do this as well too. It's like if I have to do a whole sequence with a giant ball, I need a giant ball there to film.
And then they're running him through for lighting reference. So Ren, see this ball right here
Yeah.
that he's holding? What is that ball doing?
So it's literally just reference for the visual effects artists later to figure out what sort of lighting the scene has. What a sphere shows you really well is the direction of the light and the intensity of that light from that direction. It's kind of hard just to create that stuff from scratch without knowing what it should look like.
A lot of the robots are CG in this, but there's an actual child in this robot costume.
They crammed a kid in there?
What is
Crammed
this?
a kid.
Same movie?
in this- Look, cause see where the head has to be?
Yeah.
Because the main character is an inventor.
The
He
other
invented all these
side, yeah, is
robots.
That kid. So we are only scraping the surface here of awesome Bollywood movies. And if you guys know of anything that we should check out, cool visual effects, cool action scenes, leave them in the comments.
Maybe some actual Bollywood films, am I right?
Wait, is this the end of the video? This is Bollywood.
Yeah,
Singham
this-
is Bollywood.
See, they got it covered.
This is where it comes out of the car while it's moving.
This is Singham.
Oh.
I
Whoa,
think
he's got a
for
Freddie
everyone
Mercury
with
look.
Pronunciation. So this guy's like the Indian Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Ajay.
You met him.
Ajay Devgan.
Devgan.
Ajay Devgan.
Amateurs.
Whoa, dude, that's
Yeah, this is
a hit.
really over-the-top
That's
action.
obviously some wire work there.
Oh, yes.
Hey, here we go.
You did a reaction to one of his movies. There, he comes out of the car.
That is my favorite.
So
That's how
dope.
I get out of my car.
Look at it, keeps going. The car keeps going too. Oh, look at that. Oh, got the pop. Oh,
Fly over him. I
that's
can't
confident. He
remember.
doesn't get out of the way. He's still going.
That car is flipping.
He's still going.
It's still going. It doesn't end.
I'm not through with you.
Yes! Oh my god, I want to be him.
Yes, that's the way to hold someone up. That's the way to catch a bad guy, Bollywood style.
He switches the gun to his other hand. He's like, all right, this car's flipping over me, and I'm going to switch my gun to grab it. Yeah, so they got a plate of the car flipping in the parking lot. They removed the car from the entire shot and placed it in a different shot.
Also, you see
Oh,
at the
really?
bottom of the car, They got rid of the popper.
Every single time you see a car do a uneven, like a corkscrew kind of movement, they've rigged a giant pneumatic piston that goes inside the car, and when you release it, it just stomps the ground really, really hard, allowing the car to move up in the air.
This is expensive. Oh my god, his theme song has his name in it.
Okay, so guys, this is a challenge for y'all. This is Singham Returns. This might look familiar.
Mission Impossible 3.
God dang it, Ren! We ruined it! You're supposed to watch the scene! I'm setting up something really cool for you guys.
I can only think of one action scene on a bridge that is memorable, and that's Mission Impossible 3.
True lies! True lies!
There we go! Now there's options. We have options now.
Easy!
Just play it. Just play it.
Oh, does it do a bridge jump?
Look at those tiny muzzle flashes. Look at those muzzle flashes. Not even set to screen.
I love those.
He lowered himself. Yeah.
Oh, just like
Look at
MI3.
this. Look at that.
Oh damn, that's so in tribute to MI3.
Does that look familiar?
Yeah, that's the same sort of hit.
Ouch, that looks his looks way more
I would
painful.
argue that was a way better hit.
Nah, dude.
Yeah, I think Singham had a better hit.
Lame. See, look how weak.
Wave.
Gravity right. They got the motion correct of his fall.
The other one looks better, and also the impact is really
Because he's hitting his head against the top too.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like ouch! Even on a pad or whatever the heck you're hitting, like dude,
Ouch.
you just got like an inch shorter from compressing.
This guy does his own stunts?
Yeah, you seen a trailer of his, Shivai.
His actual fall
I remember all
is
trailers.
linear there. It kind of like slows down as opposed to accelerating. Him, like,
I think we
hitting
watched
his
it
thing,
when
the
you got the
moment
place
he
from
hits, he kinda bounces off and
the
slows
family
down a little bit.
at the
They
Airbnb.
ramp his speed
Ah,
basically
yes.
post hit. What do you think? Which one looks better, Mission Impossible 3 or Singham Returns?
Singham Returns.
Is
Honestly,
as cheesy
I'd
as
say
it
Singham
can be.
Returns.
I think it's amazing. It makes me laugh every time.
It's really easy to pull one up and
That's the
laugh at
sequel
how
to
ridiculous
Enthiran.
it is. But ultimately, what these guys are doing here, they are first off completely disregarding physics, reality, all that stuff. They don't just take a normal shot and say,
Why didn't they
we're
show
done.
this?
No, they'll
That's
do
Bollywood.
anything they can to make it as intense as possible.
That's Rithik.
By the way, like I just want to point this out. We made these videos called Tactical Reloads, and while it may seem that they are like anime inspired, we realized when making the second one that they're actually Bollywood inspired.
Is basically how cool can you do this mundane task? Like how cool is your intro? How cool can you light your cigarette? How cool?
Is that
Yeah.
Rajnikant?
You know,
That's
I'll-
Rajnikant.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
other Bollywood movies that have cool visual effects or cool stuff.
I love it.
Even like Chinese cinema, things that are a little more unfamiliar to the American audience, leave them in the comments below. We would love to check out this stuff. So it's that time where we thank some of the special patrons who help support this channel. If you didn't know we have a Patreon, now you do. Check this out.
Big thanks to all of our patrons, starting off with Nick S.,
Canadian Goose,
Oscar Bundy.
How did we get a shout
Philip
out?
Oxford,
Astro GG,
Alan Almanza,
Warmaster 236.
Not a Canadian Spy,
Mitch Clancy,
Wow.
Stinky Snack,
I spent way too much time on my shout outs.
James
Well,
Bailey.
they probably
and Brian Antozer.
maybe they have
And
more.
of course, like any classic movie,
Maybe.
we have thousands of visual effects.
Of course
artists.
they have.
We also have all these names who are patrons of us. Thanks, everyone. And of course, if you want to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the description. Lots of different tiers that you can support us at. It really helps us out. Brings new episodes of this to you every single week.
Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.
Oh, we gotta become patrons. Wow, that was great. So usually when we cover corridor crew videos, I'm very familiar with a lot of what they're covering, so it's easier to like talk about
Yeah.
some stuff. Now I might have been on the very successful JabyKoay channel a few times in my life, and have seen many short films and trailers and such. I'm guilty. I've yet to sit through a full Bollywood or Indian film. Should I not admit that?
It's okay to admit that. At least you're admitting it.
I just read the 4 agreements. Be impeccable with your word, people. I will say this. Watching this video gave me a whole new height in appreciation for it all. I think it's easy for like the certain American eye to see some of these things and be like, well, that looks kind of cheesy. However, I'm the kind of guy who loves cheese. I eat it up, you know, like those Fast and Furious films, Hobbs and Shaw. I'm like, yeah, I love that kind of ridiculousness. But the thing is, they seem to combine this level of ridiculousness backed with true inventiveness. Like, I think that their choreography and just when they start off with the, what do you call the Angry Birds moment, just when they're all locking the shields and then they land on the ground, like that is so crazy and kind of silly, pretty silly, but also really cool and inventive at the same time. Or as sometimes in American films, it just seems like cheesy. Where here, it's kind of this hybrid of both. My question, in their country, do they take it as cheesy or do they just take it as really cool?
It depends who you're asking. Singham and Singham Returns, there's a lot of people who don't like it because they think it's too over the top and too ridiculous, but then there are other people who worship him and love that action sequence and love those action films. They look at some of their stars like the way we look at our superheroes. So like the way we look at Thor or Captain America or Iron Man or whatever, that's how they view some of their stars, which is why you can have a movie like Singham, which is about a cop, be over the top and it be acceptable within the realm of that film, because it's like you're watching a superhero. Same with like Salman Khan, who they didn't show in here for some reason. He's looked at like as a superhero in a way, even though he's not flying around. You'll see epic physics like that. The Angry Birds moment in Baahubali, I actually didn't like, because there's a lot of cool stuff in Baahubali, and they chose to emphasize that particular moment because it was, I guess, the most ridiculous in the entire film. There was a litany of other things they could have chosen to look at instead, and that's not Bollywood. And the second one, Enthiran, is not Bollywood. It's just like, I'm sure the comments are littered with people saying that. Singham and Singham Returns are the two actual Bollywood films. And Krish, they showed Krish at the end. Like, you could have picked on that, and that's actually Bollywood. But I enjoyed Enthiran. This movie is like very silly, but it's very fun and very interesting. There's a scene in the middle of the movie where he's talking to like a mosquito.
A mosquito?
He's talking to a set of mosquitoes, and I think they help. I can't remember because it's been a minute, but I think the mosquitoes help him out.
Well, that sounds like my kind of movie.
Yeah.
This guy seems like he's the Terminator meets Agent Smith meets Magneto all rolled into one.
I'm trying to think of a movie that's comparable, because basically what you have is a situation where you have the scientist who's made a robot that falls in love. I can't remember the plot exactly because it was such an insane movie, but I just remember that being part of it. That's who I think was in the car with him, was the girl that he's in love with. Yeah.
So when you watch these movies, what do you think of the VFX in general?
I tend to be more, for lack of a better word, I tend to be more forgiving because I know that the budget doesn't come anywhere near the budget of Hollywood movies. Going back to Spider-Man 3, which was years ago, that was a $300 million movie. I think the sequel to Enthiran, my numbers are probably, don't quote me on this, I think it was around $40 million. And that was a huge budget for the sequel to Enthiran, which is just called 2.0.
Well, they still do a lot of what they talked about, I think, like CG doubling or something like that, where I know Blade 2 did that as well. I think that was the first time I ever took notice of that effect, was the Blade 2 fight scenes. They still seem like they throw down for production design, costumes, and even some practical effects and some real stuntmen doing their, some...
You didn't notice it in The Matrix when Morpheus jumps across the building? Yeah, when Morpheus jumps out of frame and then...
But I thought he jumped out of frame and then they switched to the stunt double played by a man named China.
It wasn't a stunt double, it was CGI.
That was a CGI guy?
I don't know. China says a lot of stuff.
We met China. I met China
China's
at a gymnastics center.
China's a friend of mine. Anyway, that's going off topic, but China's... I don't know.
But you seem to know a bit about visual effects yourself. I mean, you seem like you sometimes do work on visual effects.
Well, the thing they were talking about earlier in here, where he said the first effect he ever did was doubling himself. I did a ton of that. I even did that just yesterday. I was shooting a brand deal ad, and I had to have a scene where I'm talking to myself. So I did a two-shot where I was literally like looking at myself.
So Jay Devgan, I want to be just like him when I am 30, which is next year. You met him. Is he anything like the personality that he is portraying in these clips?
He's a very nice guy. He's not a hard ass like this. He's a nice, chill dude.
So you're saying he's not tough?
I wouldn't say that. I'd say his wife is tough. His wife is beautiful. Kajol. Shivai is a trailer you saw, and you really liked it. And it was starring him. Because I remember your question was,
who's this guy?
You were just so shocked. You saw I'm surprised they didn't show it. You saw Jay Devgan stand on the front of one car and jump to the back of another. He did his own stunts in that movie. It was a great trailer. The movie wasn't as great as the trailer, but it was a great trailer.
Well, I gotta check it out again sometime. I'll watch the movie itself.
You can just drop in your reaction right now.
Now I'll just drop the whole reaction and make this video very long. I feel like for a lot of what helps save a lot of the visual effects of these films that we were looking at was actually the cinematography, the lighting of it. They seem to be really great with their color schemes for most of it.
You know what's a little weird? Let's take out the fact that they said Bollywood when they meant Indian cinema, right? Because Bollywood is the most recognizable, iconic term. But they deliberately didn't go with some of the newer stuff that actually has better visual effects. There's a new Indian film that just came out called Saho. For the most part, really good visual effects, and they didn't show any of that here. They didn't show the sequel to Enthiran 2.0, which had better visual effects. I mean, there were still some questionable, silly things in there. It was an updated version of this, which came out all the way back in 2010. Even if you look at American visual effects in 2010, like, not all of it looks amazing.
If Corridor Crew happened to stumble across our video and you could recommend stuntmen react video, what action film would you say would be a great stuntman one? This is like a weird discussion
the only
video
one
where
I can
I'm interviewing him.
The only one I can think of right now, and I haven't seen the whole movie, is Rocky Handsome, which is actually based on a Korean movie. I remember seeing the Korean fight scene with Megan Leigh, thinking that the Indian adaptation was so much nicer in terms of just the way it was shot and the action and whatnot.
Well, Corridor Crew, you have a recommendation now.
Even though I don't like that they didn't go for some of the other films that I'm familiar with, even though they weren't highlighting all the films that I thought they should have, like, I think they could have spent a little bit less time on these 4 films and spent some time on other films. Despite that, I like the breakdowns that they were doing because there were some things in there that I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize the level of detail that they were going to go into. I thought it was just going to be kind of a laugh fest of them sort of mocking the movies, but they actually broke down a number of the effects and how they went about it, things that I didn't even consider or wouldn't have known otherwise.
I have a suspicion that they were told to be as respectful as possible before doing
I would
this.
think they would want to be
Yeah.
respectful. I
Yeah.
don't think they're going out of their way to make fun of this stuff. I think that they recognize what I recognize, which is their budget is smaller.
Well, it's like usually when they say bad and great CGI, then they cover bad CGI. Oh man, do they tear that a new one. And here I'm like, oh,
They were nice.
which one was the bad one again? That's how I walked away with it. It's like, what was the bad one again?
Yeah. I've only watched fight scenes from Singham, and the editing in that is so intense. When he did the thing with the hat at the beginning and the glasses,
Yeah.
that reminded me of Singham. Just the intensity of like the shots and how it's edited and whatnot. I'm like, it's just a bit much. It's like, you calm down, movie.
Well, you could tell he loves he's the only one
Oh,
who
yeah.
seems like well versed in these actual films and the story and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool.
I was
to see
impressed.
that. Yeah.
I was impressed because he actually knew what he was talking about. He had context for everything.
Yeah, beyond just the effects department. Like, he knew the whole story. And I was like, oh, this guy actually really watches these movies. That's awesome.
Well, he watched the ones they talked about,
And that's the smartest thing to do.
so.
I'm glad I could conduct this interview about Corridor Crew selection with you about all these things. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. Jabby, good luck on your adventures on YouTube. I know it's been rough lately, but best of luck to you. Hopefully you can get to 2 million a lot faster than you need to get to 1.7 or wherever you're at right now.
1.2 actually.
1.2. Oh, fucking loser. Guys, you can subscribe to The Real Rejects, where we have 681,000 followers.
You're climbing fast. You were stuck in like the 500s for a while. Now it's like jumping up. You're almost at 700,000. Isn't it speeding up? It seems like it's speeding up.
Oh, you're so humble, aren't you? Giving your kind observations to the lesser subscribed channel.
I'm being genuine. I was actually getting nervous.
Well, I'm
I'm like, Greg,
receiving the compliment.
I was like, Greg's gonna pass me up pretty soon. Look at that. He's at 700. He's gonna be at 800 tomorrow.
By the time I get to 700,000, you will be at 2.5 million.
No, I won't. No, I won't. It's not gonna be like that.
I know how YouTube works. Guys, I've decided I'm only covering Indian trailers from now on. Won't review any of the actual movies, but I'll watch all the trailers. You can subscribe to Corridor Crew if you haven't done so already. They're fantastic. Click our notification bell. Get Jabby is the American covered channel. Covers white people. I don't know.
Covers America.
America. And
If you want to see the Indian stuff from me, then go to JabyKoay.
that's the way to do it. This is the longest outro in YouTube history. Catch you guys soon. Take care now.